Hey, how you doing? Sorry, we're back again. Sorry, not sorry. Welcome back to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. This podcast is for and about women of colour and our relationship with nature. Hosted by me, Shaira Mack. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is committed to exploring the experiences of women of colour with Mother Nature. We want to provide spaces where the hidden voices in the environmental and conservation conversations can explore their relationship with the natural world. Inspired by our time spent outdoors, we amplify the voices of women of colour, our stories, our conversations, interviews, photography, writing, and artwork. We'll be exploring our legacies, histories, and memories which have had an influence and effect upon how we perceive ourselves within the natural world and within the environmental and climate justice movements. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast has been made possible by the funding from National Lottery Heritage Fund. Thank you. And if you can't tell, I'm really excited to be here again, coming into your airwaves and invading your ear spaces. So thank you for coming back to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. And reception, the quality might be a bit off at the moment because I'm coming to you on location. I am actually walking at this moment in Northumberland. I've just come up to the Sill, the National Landscape Discovery Centre. We're going to be doing a walk today with a group of black women. But it's raining, man. It's raining. I want to say it's a grey and dismal day. However, I'm looking out upon the landscape, the rolling hills and the trees. And, we've got the red berries of the rowan tree. We've got those yellow golden leaves on the silver birch. And we've got those wide hand orange leaves of the sycamore tree. So I can't really say it's a grey and dismal day because we've got some mist, we've got some rain, but we've got so much colour for my heart to rejoice in. So man. And this episode is the first one in a special mini series that we're bringing out from beginning of November and maybe popping into December. We've got 5 lovely special commissioned episodes with 5 wonderful, amazing women who are doing amazing things, but who are amazing in their own right. Who they be is enough to celebrate them. But yes, so these are special episodes that are coming out in connection with Northumberland National Park's Future Landscapes Festival. And that festival is already started, and it's going on till December, and it's all about exploring, discussing, critically examining how we use the landscape. There's within the park, there's nature, there's people, there's wildlife, there's industry, there's economies, and it's actually looking as like what we're using this landscape for now, but what can we be doing together in collaboration, continue to enjoy and experience this landscape, but then also to be protecting it and conserving it and thinking about the climate crisis and what are we doing to slow that down and stop it. And it's rooting into the local, but that definitely has repercussions on a global scale. And that's where we come in with our special diverse voices events that are rolling out in parallel to this Future Landscapes festival, because we believe here at Earth Sea Love that many voices should be at that table where these discussions are taking place about the future of our environment, nature, our planet. And if that's what the service we are providing, then hell's bells, let us do it, because we have a right to be sitting at that table and being part of the decisions that are being made about our climate and our planet, our environment and our nature on our doorsteps and globally. So yeah, that's me. I'm off my soapbox now, but these are special episodes that we are putting out through the Earth Sea Love podcast to change that narrative again and to add in our wisdom and our actions and our activism that we are doing, we have been doing for decades, but it's just a case of that nobody's been listening or paying attention and nobody's been giving us any mind. But now, people are beginning to listen. And this first episode has been named as one of those movers and shakers within the climate justice movement. And she is such a joy, man. But why we're bringing this one out first? Because COP26, baby, are more important. COP26, the coalition, the People's Summit. This is people on the ground organising, using COP26 when we have these world leaders coming to Glasgow to discuss and make decisions about the climate crisis. We're using this, all eyes on this COP26, to actually add in our voices and we're demanding climate justice. We're demanding reparations to local communities who are black, brown, people of colour, who are facing the brunt of this climate crisis, and how that links in with the global south populations who are black and brown and people of colour, who have been feeling and experiencing and suffering and dying under the repercussions of Western civilization's greed, exploitation, colonialism, and that has bringing this climate crisis to our doors. Yeah, so let's take a breather and soak in the atmosphere where I am. Oh gosh, there's this mist that's clinging to the top of a hill there, and that would be Steel Rig, which is just half a mile away from the sill, and then once you start walking, I want to say south, I would say, along to the Peel Crags, which is a wonderful, a bit of a precarious get up to there, these depths, these misshapen steps that have been chiseled into the landscape. But once you get up to Peel Crags, you can have a 360 view back into the Northumberland Valley, but then out towards the east And then if you do walk along from these crags, you do get to that iconic Sycamore Gap when we have that tree growing out of Hadrian's Wall section. So yeah, that's me situating myself. And as always, that's how we start off this podcast. Situating herself and what's been happening since the last time we were in touch with her. But there's a lot of information in this episode because we're not just talking about the situation and how bad it is, we're also talking about action, activities that what are happening, and that we feel that the UK government, as you know, the host of COP26, should be leading the way and taking responsibility for their actions in the past and now, and actually, putting their money where their mouth is and looking for greener ways to be doing business. I mean, we get into the banks, we get into housing, and it's a wonderful episode. And the thing is, it's not all dire. It's not all bad news, because as we say, we've got so much hope. We've got so much joy. And this is the thing what Shaira bringing to the table, because she's bringing actions that are happening with the groups that she's working with, the communities that she's working in, but it's coming from such a wonderful place of love and understanding and communication and connection. So I've gone on enough. Yeah, I'm getting wet here, but liquid sunshine, I say, liquid sunshine. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode this month and maybe into December. I'm not sure, because it's a case of we're bringing out an episode for the podcast every Friday. We've got them lined up, we've got them recorded, and I'm excited to share them with you. Really excited, and I hope you're going to stick around for the duration. This is the Earthsea Love podcast. This is season 3, and it's been a little journey into some mini series of episodes. And thanks for being here. Happy listening. Till next time. Bye for now.
Missed your face, your presence. It's really lovely to connect back again. How are you? And also congratulations on the work that you are doing and what the new stuff. It sounds really amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm good. I've just come back from a week away in the VW camper for my 50th birthday present to myself. I went to the Isle of Arran and a bit around the Galway and Ayrshire coast, and it was lovely. It was so lovely. I didn't really do much, I just rested and chilled, took in the scenery, got into the sea, a bit walking, but I've come back and I just feel so rejuvenated, I just feel so good in myself. And I just want to keep that feeling if I can. I know it peaks and troughs, but I'm just grateful for that feeling now. Yes. So that's how are you? Because the last time we talked was summer 2020, and your episode came out in November 2020, if I remember. So tell me, what's happened to you since then, or what you've been doing since then? Remind our listeners what you get up to.
I'm just excited to share space with you, Shaira, so I'm gonna breathe. We did our last episode actually just before George Floyd's murder, to be exact. I was trying to remember exactly when. So
really,
lots of different feelings and spaces and thoughts and feelings and headspaces. It was the summer of sort of March, or just early spring, March, April, I think. We last spoke. So lots of things, I don't know, things have like really changed for the better, I think. Yeah, I'm sort of a little bit slower at the minute in terms of what I'm up to. It wasn't planned, it was actually quite accidental, but I'm really happy, and I think it's like things happen for a reason. Like my mom and dad say this all the time. So yeah, I think I found myself looking for jobs in December and January and finding it really difficult to sort of find anything, just the space, the environment, like it was just really difficult. And I think a lot of people were applying for jobs, like under applying and all sorts of things. But yeah, so that like resulted in like loads of mass rush job applications anywhere and everywhere, like selling my soul, like literally just anywhere. And then there was just time to rest, like lots of rest time, and I think it was needed, and it was really beautiful to rest and then volunteer in places. Like I can't completely rest, I have to like keep busy somewhere, even like when I retire and everything like that. I think I'm going to be like my parents, doing things, connecting with people. So yeah, I started just like looking around on my doorstep, literally on my doorstep, like on my road, and I thought, you go and do all sorts of things anywhere and everywhere else, but like how close am I doing things like on my actual doorstep that's like benefiting people like mum, other people that I pass spaces with just because they're not in a workshop, and all the people I live with basically and share space with all the time. So I found like my local renters union, and it was just really great to share space, go in and learn new skills and rights, I guess, about landlords and disrepair and how to take action and power mapping what it all looks like. And it was just really beautiful to be in a shared space of people very similar like me, mum, people who have like had so many trials and tribulations in life, and it's sometimes very difficult to see big picture or dream and reimagine what that beautiful future that you want to live in looks like. So it's been really beautiful sharing space with lots of different folk, people who have done this sort of work, people who are new to it and maybe have different language around it, and just coming together to see who these local players are, who has the power, and how we might shift it. And sort of outside of our heads, but on paper. And it almost felt like games and activities and play, but at the same time really beautiful. So it shifted really quickly, and I miss that way of working. And I should have said, yeah, I'm now like back doing hybrid stuff, like face to face and in the community. So it's been really beautiful to sort of come and join things with a like separate to a work hat, just as a participant to take, and also share space and think about these skills, like just because I'm not going through a housing situation right now, but I could do in the future. And if I'm not, I don't want others to go through it. So how can we have conversations? It might be as like basic as talking in my mother tongue and bringing other people on board. So finding some catering to make it look like home and the kind of food that you might have at home in meetings. And they sound like little things, but I've sort of learnt these things and now take it back to my own meetings and places of work, just like having really warm, homely, nutritious food, to having childcare and games, to bring in an interpreter on board or being that interpreter myself, or just scoping out the beautiful skills that people have in a room and a space. The kind of those things. And then just been reconnecting with my dad. I don't know when we last spoke exactly, but my dad's been quite unwell, so we've got some limited time with him. And we've just been reconnected about his activism in Brick Lane in Tower Hamlets when he first arrived. Just like fighting the NF on our doorstep. We still live there, by the way. So we haven't really moved to the housing conversation things I'm having now. So he's like, what do you do with your time? And what are you going there on a Saturday for? What are you gaining? And I went, well, kind of like what you used to do, except landscape might have changed. And although there's not fights going on physically, some of those housing situations, they're all interlined with where I live, in terms of the air quality in my home, the estate, the tower, to the jobs that we're working on, or the lack of it, or the precariousness of it, or there's loads of links actually to what you went through in the 70s, 80s, to now, not much has changed. And there's lots of things that we can learn from your bits. So it's been really lovely sort of sharing space with him in terms of like how he came about with his people, and they set up a mosque in Brick Lane. And I asked him, like, what was it like separate to your prayers and like the spaces and the conversations, like when mum wasn't around? So he was saying that's where I found friendship and group, and that's how we got housing. So now, like in the housing meetings, it's really lovely to see the links and contribute in a way where there's different folk. It's quite intergenerational. And there are some new younger folk, but I feel really proud, like in those meetings, to say, oh yeah, like we haven't really moved. We know what the area's been like, and some of that we can really learn from those, like the squatters movements and the Bengali squatters movement in particular. So I've been sort of reconnecting with him in different ways and making those links and bringing his stories together, and it's just been really lovely. We found some footage of him in the BFI archives, and I think like last week BBC showed 30 seconds of a clip of him. He's just like dressed really beautifully, really smartly. That's what they did in the 70s, 80s when they first came here. They used to dress like in ties and shirts and look really handsome, and he was like speaking like really beautiful English, like much better than me. So yeah, we've just sort of been taking it easy and reflecting and sharing space and talking about these things. Separately, I've gone back to community organizing. I just have paid titles called community organizer. Essentially, we were doing lots of those bits anyway, and we'll continue to do it anyway. I feel really privileged that I have paid work that is meaningful and I'm choosing to be in. And when I say privilege, it's the first time I'm working in places where everyone gets paid the same, and they really recognize like just different class differences, disabilities. It's just really great. And we take that from Platform, which they have a social justice pay guide, which is really great. So things are like really great at the moment. I'm around lots of different people who I wouldn't mingle with necessarily. That's because of geography and regional things. And I love it because I think I was going through a pace of like hanging about with the same people and people like me syndrome, real in a bubble of like, we think the same and we move the same. To some contexts, that's really great. But it's been great because of COVID that I've been able to sort of meet and go to different places. So lots of those things are happening. And again, so COVID is slightly lifted in Tower Hamlets, but the Delta came in and it's still affecting our people more so because of like housing issues and the structural inequalities and where we find ourselves in frontline jobs and homes. So I'm like having really beautiful conversations with like people like Uber drivers. It's really wonderful. Some of my work, paid work, non-paid work, they're all intertwined, isn't it? It is what it is. And we have like beautiful conversations about unions. Who are you with? How can we take action? And those kind of things. And I'm obviously very excited about COP and banner making. I did a really beautiful banner making session yesterday, and it was so beautiful to see 20 different strangers that you might have shared email threads with. But it was just really beautiful, just art, some worldly music, some comforting food. It was really therapeutic. I thought, I've missed this. I want to do more and more of this.
Oh my gosh, that is so rich and it's so beautiful. Thank you for that share. I'm doing these emojis here on the screen in response, you know. First of all, going slow and going at your own pace. I am so with that. That has been my year. And having rest, I've got it in one of my old visual journals, but it has rest is a weapon. And I'm sure it was Jason Bourne who said it in one of those movies that he's in, you know, the Bourne movies. It's like rest is a weapon. And it is, because in order to do all this good work that you are doing, making all these beautiful and rich connections, neighborhood on your doorstep, but then across generations with your father, that takes energy. And to be able to keep doing that, you do need to have rest. You do need to slow down and be checking in with yourself. And to say that you've just done this banner, that creative space is where you can actually fill up your pot, fill up your soul, so you can think, yes, I can keep doing what I am doing for myself and others because I am feeding my soul. So that was just so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
I miss those giggles. Oh my goodness.
I hope I don't lose those giggles. Breaking it down a little more, because there's two things I think. When I reached out to you to say, would you come back on and chat about your work and climate justice, you did say that you were really excited about this new job. Now, is this what you were saying, the paid work, social justice pay, and it's sort of like, we're in this together, working together? Is this what you were excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. You might have not heard of us, but that's actually quite deliberate. And I was going to tell you, it's deliberate because we're a behind the scenes crew trying to support grassroots orgs that have been going for a while, for a long time. And then newer grassroots orgs who might be coming up and need some support. So our position is very much in the background, trying to build a rich ecosystem of things that are already going on.
But can I ask why? Why is that important?
From like a racial justice perspective, there are so many different orgs going, right? And we know that behind the scenes, there are lots of grassroots groups doing amazing work, and there always has been, and they'll always continue doing this stuff. And it was important to sort of look at it from a care and repair lens and really like pay people for their time and uplift the stories and voices and find ways of highlighting their work should they want to. So it's taken advice from people. So that might be hooking people up with the press, getting articles together, supporting groups to come together and work on their strategic values. So going beyond mobilizing, but thinking about long-term strategic stuff. We already know the experts are there. It's about behind the scenes and offering the tools. That might be the tech, that might be the space, that might be budget. Because we know people already have the ideas and they've been doing some of that. So that's what it was, and about connecting people up. But separately to COP, we know our houses have been on fire for over 500 years. And COP, although it's exciting, we've been recruited for building momentum and almost acting like a sponge to new groups. So it's actually also beyond COP and recognizing what else needs to be done and the long-term stuff. And it's a very exciting group of people who have like so many years of experience working from all sorts of different places. So it's just really wonderful to share spaces. I think there's like 10 people from different regions. And Shaira didn't say, what's really beautiful is, you remember we were talking about Building Our Power event? I'm working with the organizers from there. So it's like a dream come true. And I think my interview was really, really funny. And I was convinced I wouldn't get it because I started just talking about that event and them. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I hadn't realized you were involved. This is amazing. But I think I just really love the way they work. It's not about centering yourself. Yeah. And it's about not getting bigger or anything, but it's about, if you really believe in transformational work and getting everyone on board. Yeah. And that's the way you do it. So I wanted to tell you that it is some of those people, and it's really beautiful. And like now I'm like, I've calmed down now and I get on with my work. But at the beginning I was like, sort of declaring my love, and I can try to get with it. But it is phenomenal, because sometimes I think people do so much and, you know, people don't shout about the stuff that they do.
And I just think that is so good that you are working with people that you admire, because that should also reinforce how you see yourself. That should be, and it's not a case of centering yourself, but it just shows that you are doing the work as well alongside them. And that is inspiring. That is so inspiring. And that is a journey, you know, because when we were talking about it and what was happening when we were first talking to now, and that is real progress in a short space of time, if you think. And that's amazing.
It's funny that you say that. Someone once said, we do it in facilitation games. And we say, when we're building a container, we always say, right, think of somebody that you don't know so well, but you really admire 3 qualities about them. And then you just share the 3 qualities. And then someone told me, do you know why you chose those 3 qualities? And I went, no, that's what I think of that person. Mm-hmm. And they were like, the reason why you've chosen them, those qualities are your qualities, actually. And I was like, what are you talking about, huh? But it was really interesting exercise. Think of somebody that you really admire, think of their three qualities, someone that maybe you don't live with or have like a real personal relationship.
Yeah.
What are their three qualities? You have those three qualities, and it was a game changer, reframing of things that I thought about myself, in particular to what you said. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah. And that's what we need. You know, when we think about the work that we're doing, we have to do a lot of work on ourselves to actually be able to do that. And that's I think that's the best way, is that we work on ourselves so we can bring the best version, the best of ourselves out to be of service to others. And I think that what you just said is so true. And it's like, these are the qualities that we admire in somebody else, but actually we have these qualities, and it's just recognizing them. And then I don't care. People say it's about blowing your own trumpet, or there's arrogance or whatever, but I don't see it. I see it as blossoming ourselves, you know, because like, who else is going to do that? Who else is going to do that?
You make a nature link somewhere, and with your of course, no, I really.
My language.
And then it's been really great to sort of look at the care and repair lens, and also look at the colonial links, and really talk about these things in a really safe space with the groups that you might work with, making the link to sort of the fossil finance industry, looking at who finances what and how we can tell the stories from Indigenous communities, whether they're Pacific climate warriors or the MAPA youth strikers. It's been really lovely to work behind the scenes to help their stay in London go as smoothly as possible. But obviously that's working with many other different orgs and people. So it's just been really wonderful to like plan an action co-creatively with others, co-lead it with so many different people, and then seeing some of that come together. So for example, we're going to be at Lloyd's of London, the insurance place, and we're doing climate memorials, really like highlighting frontline testimonies from the financing that Lloyd's of London does all over across the globe and has been doing, and highlighting some of those atrocities and stories. And it's been done in a really beautiful way of passing flowers to members of the public to work in those buildings who might not be aware. So it's just really, it feels really global, but yet local. And there's going to be climate activists from Bangladesh and the Philippines and all over. So it's just really beautiful. I think people have missed coming together, but also not forgetting that, yes, it's joyous and really beautiful, but we want to center and bring all these voices together. So who wouldn't love this kind of work? I feel really lucky and really privileged to share space. And we have check-ins and lemon squeezes to check what's going on. Are we happy? Yeah, and I just miss the movement building and seeing where we are and reflecting. It feels really good. And I feel like waiting and all the things up to and leading to has been really useful. I still have like other part-time work, and the freelancing option is really great. It gives you more time to like go off anywhere and take that recuperation time. So I saw a little bit of Devon for the first time, which was really nice. Devon, the New Forest, and a couple of other places to do that. It was really beautiful. It sounds like work, but it's really beautiful, laying flowers somewhere and reading testimonies from other people, and then also contributing. I'm going to make sure my signs are in my language. I think so. It's just really beautiful, resting, making placards with other people and sharing that space, and just meeting people for the first time, and then finding out, oh my God, like we might appear really differently, but it's just really great to see all of us coming together to fight the same cause. I think it's just great. Some of the groups are linking housing and climate justice together, and I think that feels really personal at the moment and very true, just because of the location that I'm in. And like my borough's been in the news recently for the mold and the conditions that people are living in, and the silent killer that no one can see, and just power distribution and what it looks like. So I'm really excited about doing power mapping exercises with people. I find it the most fun thing ever. I sound a bit geeky, but that's my thing at the moment and has been in the last year. So sometimes I get freelance work to run a campaigns workshop with 18 to 25-year-olds like, what's your cause that you care about? And how can we map out who the different players are? How can we shift people who might turn up to meetings and sit there and join, but sometimes can't take part for different reasons, but also like sensitively looking at why that might be and how we might be able to shift, but without adding too much pressure on people, because we really recognize there's other things going on in life. And yeah, they are quite intersecting. But how do you do it in a caring way without burnout on other people? Especially if you've gone through that stuff, why would you? So it feels good. And I feel like it sounds like a show off, but quite experienced at the moment in terms of like having been in places where you can see, like, I don't know, it's not really welcoming, and learning from some of that. And then making sure like you can make a little contribution somewhere to make sure that might not happen or somebody else doesn't go through that. And it's a joint thing, but I feel like I'm in shared spaces where people also recognize that, and I've come from various places to make sure those harms are not recreated and that kind of stuff.
I mean, you keep saying it, and all I keep saying is it's so beautiful, because out of this ugliness is this beautiful connection. And when you're describing what this work that you're doing, which is paid, and also the freelance, it's like what we've just said about that rest and support that we need to keep doing the work. You're doing it as a personal person, but then with the work that you're doing in organizations, they're supporting people who are doing the work as well, you know, those grassroots organizations that are doing the work. And it's like, what can we do to support you, lighten the load a bit for you so you can keep on doing your work? And like, it's beautiful, because what is happening is like, you're saying you're not alone. You're not alone. We are here. We respect you. We want to help you do more of your great work. We recognize you. We see you. You know, when you see that Black person in the street, man, and like for me up north, we don't see each other that often. So when we see each other, we give that recognition of a nod, like, yeah, man, I see you. I see your existence. You have worth because you are just here doing what you're doing. So I love it. I so love it. And just picking up, you said about COP26, little mini series of episodes from Earthsea Love are coming out of the Future Landscapes program from Northumberland National Park Authority. And at the same time that they're doing their Future Landscape program is the same time of COP26, yeah. And it's purposely done that way because they want to be opening up these avenues for dialogue, and they want to put Northumberland on the map as a mover and shaker in thinking about climate crisis and what they can do in terms of land use or alternative land uses. So COP26, can you say it in a nutshell what COP26 is or going to be about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know, this November, Boris Johnson's government is going to be hosting like one of the most important international meetings of our time, the UN Climate Crisis Conference, which we know as COP26. They're going to be talking about lots and lots of different things and delegations. We know the UK has an outsized historic responsibility to do its fair share and lead the world in meeting global climate goal of 1.5 set by the Paris Agreement. But we know that our country here is disproportionately responsible for carbon emissions after profiting over 400 years of slavery, colonialism, and continued extraction and exploitation of communities in the global south. We hear about the greenwashing pledges, don't we, to get to net zero. The first thing you do when you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging. There are red lines in the UK. Government cannot cross it if it wants to maintain credibility as a genuine climate leader. So it must start providing the care and reparations that communities here and around the world need to protect themselves and really repair the damage already done, right? So we're hoping that people will join and call the UK to sort of join us for stop and start demands. So some of the stop demands that we have is about climate justice means keeping fossil fuels in the ground right now. So real climate leadership from the UK would mean they stop coal, oil, gas and fracking projects, stop giving money to the polluting industries, stop banks, insurers and other private financiers from supporting and profiting from fossil fuel extraction. They'll stop fossil fueled militarization and new infrastructure like roads and airports. hopefully stop debt collection from the global south countries and marginalized communities within UK. Hostile migration policies they need to stop, with privatizing public spaces and community infrastructures. Instead, we'd like to demand climate justice means securing finance for the care and repair of our communities that our planet deserves. The real climate leadership from the UK government would look like, if they start make polluters like coal, oil, gas, and companies pay climate reparations. They start to invest in good green jobs, especially for workers transitioning from high carbon industries and projects, and those hit hardest by the climate impacts of COVID-19 and precarity. And hopefully start democratizing housing and community infrastructure and land access with strong social policies, pay for climate harms that the UK drives from around the world, democratize the financial industry to force a just transition, reverse the cuts to overseas aid and promote debt relief and cancellation. So those kind of things, they're kind of and enabling young people to co-create education that serves well-being, thriving and sustainable communities, and giving, I guess, decision and power making to communities on the front line of health, climate, economic and social injustices. We're hoping that folks in London will be joining us on November the 6th to co-lead the reparations block with us. So it's going to be really beautiful and bold. And we're asking people to co-lead it right from the beginning. And the banner at the front will be Wretched the Earth's banner. Which we think those messaging is really key to this day. And what it said 5 years ago to what it says today, not much has changed. So we're really excited about bringing people on board. Some of us are going to Glasgow. We recognize that everybody can't go. And then some of us are going to be in London. And we're inviting so many different groups to come and make it really beautiful and bold. If people can't go, we're asking people to video themselves. And there's going to be really beautiful projections and soundscapes with the group frontline communities from Pacific Islands to Indonesia to Bangladesh. Really hearing beautiful stories from them, from their side of how they defend their land and how they have been. So we're really excited about all of that.
And you says this is the 6th of November or for the duration of COP26. I mean, where do we find out information about this if we wanted to get involved?
So you can go on the COP26 website, but I would love for you to go to the Climate Reparations website, where you can find out about London actions and the Glasgow ones, looking at the care repair and the reparations block in particular that I've just talked about. But we're going to be meeting at the Bank of England at 11 a.m. and there's going to be beautiful doll players, food, breathing exercises. So I think it's going to be really beautiful this time around. I think it's going to bring in lots of different people who might have not found themselves welcomed or involved, or people who might not come to marches or protests before. It's going to be a mixture of different groups coming together, and I think it's going to be, just because of the organizers, Sunrise is involved also, it's just going to be super lush, and I think everyone should come and co-lead it. I think that's the important words there.
Yeah, well, one of the important words there is lush, because I don't think lush is used enough, but co-creating, definitely. And what you were saying about co-creating or co-educating, having that space to think for ourselves, make decisions for ourselves, this is where creativity can come in. But as we know, the current situation of education, there isn't that space to be thinking, individuals that come together as a collective. It's just factory fodder, learning by rote, memory.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gathering at 11 a.m. at the Bank of England, November the 6th. So economic, political and social infrastructures that are failing to protect life and need repairing, right? So at the COP26 Coalition, 6th of November 2021, the Global Day of Climate Justice London Rally, organisers from Wretched of the Earth, Stop the Manzanini, London Renters Union, No More Exclusions, Revoke, Platform, Tipping Point, and others will co-lead a reparations block demanding systems change. And the website is climatereparations.uk.
I'm not sure if it came out after our first conversation or not, but you were featured in a list alongside 100 other excellent and beautiful people of color who were in their climate movement. It was the document which Climate Reframe, and it was to amplify the voices of BAME, BAME, people within the environmental movement. I mean, BAME is an issue now. We like to use maybe people of color. You were cited in there as an environmentalist who's a mover and shaker and changing the way people think or who they actually see as part of the environmental movement. And what I wanted to ask you was, what was it like to be named in that document? And has it sort of like changed your view of yourself? Or has others changed their view of you? Does that make sense?
It was a really beautiful 100 Voices Climate Reframe document put together full of like wonderful human beings who have been doing amazing work for like a long time. So I'll be honest with you, I think when I first saw my name on it, I had the giggles. I was like, oh my God, what is this? This is ridiculous. I'm next to Beth Collier, who set up Wild in the City. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm next to like all the people that I absolutely love. And they've been doing so much of their work for such a long time, and I learn off all the time. So I found it quite funny and all of those kind of things. And like hugely happy, obviously. I was a little bit shy at the beginning. Now I kind of think it's really great, and we should be seeing and celebrating so many different voices who've been doing work, but also like newcomers or like new people on the scene who have been like inspired by people who've been, because, you know, it's a movement, right? The point is we want to build like power everywhere, and we want so many people involved. So it's been an honor to be on there with so many different folk who have been doing so many amazing things, but also really recognizing that's only 100 people, and 100 might have seemed like a really good number at the time, and there are so many others for various reasons. Names are not there, and we know between us and everywhere they do amazing things all the time. I share space with so many beautiful human beings who do so many things. So it's been really great in terms of getting work, just as Shaira, which is really great. Separate to an NGO or some other place, I decided I should fix my Twitter and all those things. And it's been great to get some love or new ways of connecting, and other people saying, can we talk? Would you like to be on a panel here? What do you think about this? The truth is, majority of those calls came through straight after George Floyd's murder, and there was a reshape, like everybody wanted to have D&I working groups suddenly. And as part of that, there were lots of call outs. They were great for me. I went along. I still go along, but really recognize that I can't go everywhere and it's not about me. So I actively share those opportunities and call outs to people in my networks for fun. Because I think that's what we should be doing. Separate to that reframe list, I actually share and say, hey, this is a paid opportunity, 30 minutes for your time, talking about what it's been like for you. Because I guess those opportunities were my way, and I came and found those and then made connections, and people remember. And so I make sure I do the same elsewhere. One, because it's really important, no one's on a pedestal, and it's important if we want to bring everyone on board, we bring in and look at who's not in the room, or recognizing the important work others are doing, separate to being on a website or having a big following. So yeah, looking at sort of positionality and finding people. So it's been great. I think they're working on a stage 2 element of what that looks like. So that's one element. I think it's great. And I think people should be looking at it and referring to it. And I think it was mainly for media spokespeople or like media to come to the Climate Reframe people and ask. It was like a one document place to go to. But I think since then, and separate to this, there's also amazing, wonderful things that go on deliberately that might not come to you. You just have to go find them, and they exist with other amazing people. So it's been going well, and you still get emails and things saying, do you want to get involved? And I met some wonderful humans on there and connected. Sometimes we have Zoom meetings to connect and see what the next stage should be. But yeah, I think there should be more of those everywhere. include more voices, more younger voices. I'm so interested in like hearing and seeing a variety of voices from Black, Indigenous backgrounds, working class voices in particular. I have a thing. It's amazing, but I just think it needs to have more working class voices like mine, queer voices, people from people with disabilities, just everywhere. Yeah, it could even be better. So it's great, but there's still a long way to go in terms of the great document. There should be more, and we can learn and do bigger and more beautiful things.
We are going to link to it through the show notes. You know, when I'm writing, sometimes I'm too much in my head and nothing gets on the page. And I think, as I say to others, which is easier than to myself, it's like, get something down and then you have something to work with. Then you can do some rejigging or moving around or redrafting. And I think this is what Climate Reframe has able to do. There wasn't anything like that before. Now there is, and now we've got it, and it's a start. And like, how can we develop on that? And as you're saying, that's what you're meeting and thinking about stage 2 and how we can develop and how we can bring in more voices. And for me, I saw it as a platform, a way of elevating those voices that are out there doing the good work. And yeah, there would have to be a limit, you know, because like, there was the time and the energy that went in it. But as we said, it's the beginning.
It's not a one-time only thing. And I think that's the most important thing about the groups and the people and the way that we want to work. It's not just that one, so we want to tell powerful stories connecting COP26 moment that reaches new audience, and possibly for, absorbing new activated members from communities and deepening people's engagement. And we're hoping to leverage that COP26 moment of worldhood, which will have the world's attention, right? Mm-hmm. And so having the right groups there, it will give the opportunity to reach new members within our communities and really ensure that our groups can grow and have lasting grassroots power beyond this. Like, that's so important to contribute to building movements capable of driving system change.
But it is about, as we're saying, it is about using this as a vehicle and a platform to be visible and to be vocal and to grab attention in such a beautiful, harmonious human connection, human nature connection way. It's about changing the narrative, basically. Who has a right to be speaking up to save Mother Earth, who has been doing it for decades and who hasn't been listening to. And it's a case of like, time's running out, man. Time is running out. But we're not doing it from a place of anger or hate, but we're doing it from a place of love. And I think that is the most powerful energy and connection that we have as human beings, with each other and also with nature, with Mother Earth.
Absolutely, Cherie. And I guess I wanted to add, like, so many people in East London, like in my community, we find so much more in common with people in the Global South than we do with like people across the road in Westminster. And so I'm hoping that so many different groups will come, right? Talking about our shared struggles, shared solutions, and connecting communities from East London to Ogoniland. And we've been holding beautiful workshops and banner making to like really make the links and show people in the UK have increasingly understand the global impacts of the climate crisis when they see what's being played out around the world for years, happening here already. People's homes flooded year on year, the temperatures are on average soaring across the company. And it's not just the effects of the climate that connect us, but also the causes too. So it's been really great having those conversations and understanding the ways and the fates of working class people from Newham, Hackney, Bethnal Green to Ogoniland, and how it's all intertwined, and looking at the main players of the centre of that connection, and looking at Britain's banks and how they continue to fund the global fossil finance industries and really accelerate that climate crisis that's wreaking havoc in parts of the Global South and here.
And I think that's what's been missing. I have my moment. This is where my anger comes into it. And it's like that Malcolm X quote, or now the chickens are coming home to roost. And it is that issue of now it's on your doorstep. Now you're paying attention. And I'm thinking of the UK and America, and if we've been seeing extreme weather conditions. And it does make me mad to think of like the Pacific Islands, say, or Caribbean islands, which have disappeared because of the rising sea levels. And it's a case of like, it's not their actions that have resulted in this, it's actions within the Western world that have brought this to bear on these communities and who are Black and brown, basically. And so that's where my rage is. But then at the same time, I also have to give props and say, all right, at least people are paying attention now. And when I say that, I mean white, westernized, privileged people are paying attention now. And it's a shame that it's taken so long, but this is an opportunity that, you know, we're all more or less singing the same songs here. Like, let's save the earth, or let's save ourselves, let's save the earth, sort of thing, and let's try and do it together. Now that's the positive I feel that's coming out of this time. Trauma, pandemic.
No, absolutely. Oh my goodness. You know, like working class people who are often Black and brown, like you said, in the UK, are exposed to higher and higher levels of air pollution of the public services that we all rely on and live by, and have been decimated by austerity. At the same time, swaths of people in the global south are living in countries that are so indebted to banks in the global north that they can't invest in some of the mechanisms that they desperately need in order to respond to the climate crisis, right? Like healthcare, food, flood defenses, housing, and community-owned renewable energy. And like you said, the ties between people who are exposed to poverty and the climate crisis are complex, but they are very real. And we said, you know, in many ways, there are grossly unjust results of environmental degradation. People in East London have more in common with communities whole continents away than they do with politicians just 9 miles down the road in Westminster, right? Connections show an often hidden element of what we mean when we say climate crisis in the global south. So that's why on November the 6th, we're co-leading a climate reparations alliance as part of COP26 Coalition's Global Day of Action. So the coalition brings together climate justice groups and individuals that are calling for climate justice. And the reparations block and our demands that we talked about centre justice for working class people in the UK and also around the world. You know.
And that's the link here. We're linking the local with the global. And we're seeing that, you know, this is what's been happening to the global population. And this is also what's happening to people on our doorstep. And they're related. They are connected. And it's about making those links and understanding them and appreciating them and saying, like, it's not a them and us that's going on. That it's a we. It's a we, and that's what's been missing. And I totally get it, because it's a case of like the global south has been bearing the brunt, but there's also people within our own communities who are bearing the brunt. And it's about now of like recognizing it and leveling it up and making things equitable when we can be doing so much more for those who are on the front lines.
Yes, and you know, for that to happen, countries like the UK, who have played the biggest role in creating that problem, must do the most in solving it after hundreds of years of exploiting the global south. It's only right and fair that the government takes responsibility, and that responsibility, must be about regulating banks that are funding that climate crisis and making the fossil fuel and agribusiness industries disproportionately responsible for emissions at the centre of paying for a green and fair transition. So that's also why many of us will be coming out on the 29th of October. So that's just days before COP26 begins, with calls for banks to defund climate chaos. So we'll be standing with frontline communities from Colombia, Indonesia, and the Pacific.
And I think what you just said there is about the UK taking responsibility. Got to hope. We've got to hope. We've got to have that glimmer of light. Otherwise, why are we doing what we are doing? But it is about taking that responsibility and not putting the blame elsewhere, which we're quite fond of doing, of pointing the finger elsewhere, but not actually looking in the mirror ourselves and see what the destruction, the exploitation, the extraction, the damage, the what we've been doing. And I say we, I mean the British, the English, UK, Western world, which we've been doing, as you're saying, for hundreds of years. And until that is recognized and taken responsibility of, then things are not going to change. There's just going to be a plaster on a massive gaping wound, oozing wound.
I love your visuals of the plaster. Absolutely. We know as the climate impacts accelerate, those who cannot afford insurance and in places where the states have failed to invest in flood defences or prevent coastal erosion from Yorkshire and London to the Bay of Bengal and Lagos. There is an alternative, isn't there, from cultivating nutritious local food that ensures soil health and crop diversity through to democratizing solar and wind energy generation and universalizing green accessible transport for everyone. So there are so many different ways and alternatives of doing things. I know that.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because those are ideas, those are projects, those are things that we could be doing. And if I'm thinking about Northumberland here and, part of this future landscape program, this is something that they could be looking in at, because there is, we're saying about climate justice, but that links in with racial justice, and that links in with land justice. And that comes back to those power dynamics and those, like, the power mapping and who's got the power. Because if you've got the power, you have a say in the decisions.
What are your plans, Cherie? You are also doing amazing and wonderful things.
I don't know what my plans are. My plans are to continue to have difficult conversations. Yeah, with whoever, because at the moment I'm doing stuff around anti-racism education in predominantly white organizations, because, they've got the power. They've got some power. I know I've got personal power. We've all got some personal power, but they've got some power that they need to actually pass on or give up. Or, it's actually about giving up. It's about passing the mic. I have a number of devices that I use to get that power. I can smile and be charming, or I can demand in a polite way, or I can actually sweet talk and educate you and make it out so it's your own decision. You've come to the own decision yourself. But it's a case of it's like you have the power to be passing the mic, bringing people into the conversation, bringing people into the room, and not in a sense of like you're doing it as like a white savior or performative allyship, but it's a case of like, are you in the room? Well, I'm listening. I'm shutting up and listening. I'm not centering myself. You have the platform. You have the stage. Whatever you want is at your disposal. The resources, the finances, the amplification, those are the conversations that I am having now and enjoying having it. And then it's a case of like, once I get my foot in the door, then it's like, okay, come on, everybody. And then it's the group, and then it's the organization. And it's a case of like, before we know it, it's like, we're no longer that one lone black face or black voice in the room, but we're actually a posse or a crowd or a group, or, we're there in numbers.
Oh, I'm getting warm and fuzzies and all sorts of feelings. I totally hear you. It's so important to have these like transformative conversations with those people that you absolutely, of course, I totally get it. And
the flip side is making sure that we are getting together, still brown and black bodies, either virtually or physically, within nature, and making sure we have our rest, that we are healing, that we have these safe spaces where we can just let it all hang out and not be judged and not be, ostracized or silenced. It's like, it's having those two in tandem or in balance. And I'm Libra, so my whole life is about having this balance.
For Aries. Absolutely. I love like safe spaces, and one of my safe spaces is world in the city. You know, the fact that you can go on walks, you know, Black Girl Hike is another one. Theirs is a bit similar to the amazing work that you're doing, and I wish there was more of, because obviously I didn't see that in school, and the truth being is I've only accessed all of that through college, university, and secondary school education and youth clubs, like exposure trips and overseas on kayaking and boat clubs. It's so great to see the leadership program back on again, in terms of training up people to take groups to the countryside and lead walks. So no background experience necessary. They train you up, show you so you feel confident enough to spot ID, countryside codes, from gear to walks, to what you should be wearing, plant identification, to all sorts of other things I'm probably missing. But that's something really beautiful that I've seen pop up again, and I kind of think, this is amazing. I can't wait to like go to this event. And
the thing is, it's always been there. There's always been this Black environmental network. But what is happening is that it's expanding, and that it's getting some exposure and airplay. And I think that's just going to help and support the sustainability of it, you know?
Absolutely. I love the way you were talking about redistribution of power in spaces. I would love to see it, you know, in more places and stuff. Some shifts I can see, but I hope to see more of it.
Time. You know, I've just been saying, this has been the case like for 400, 500 years. So like, it's not going to happen overnight. So we're in it for the long run. That's where we're going, slow and steady, man. Slow and steady, taking our rest as we go. And on that note, I'm going to let you go because you have given so much. I mean, like, so I just like to say, lovely, lovely, lovely shares, and your time and your energy and the work that you're doing. And let's also underline it, is like, we're using this COP26 as a vehicle, but this is going to be work that's going on beyond our lifetime, but this is our contributions that we can do now while we're still here.
Absolutely. Shaira, thank you so much. Like I absolutely love sharing space with you. There's something really comforting. I remember like starting this off, and then now I don't want to go. I hope to share physical space with you, or or like be in the sea with you at some point. I've like recently discovered wetsuits and the different thickness of it. Get out my ankle and everything.
No, definitely. That would be a pleasure to meet in person and spend time in nature with you. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Lots of love.